You know that old saying, knowledge is power? We've all heard it a million times. But is that really true? What if that's not the whole picture? Let's dig into the huge difference between having a mind that's just a dusty old archive and one that's a powerful toolkit.
Okay, so picture this. You're cramming for a huge test. First up, you've got the rules. You're just trying to force them into your brain one by one.
All right, next are the formulas. You just keep drilling them over and over, hoping, praying they'll stick. It really feels like you're just pouring pure data right into your head.
And then the big one. Entire paragraphs right out of the textbook. You're reading them, highlighting, maybe even saying them out loud. The download feels complete, right? Your brain is packed with information. But then, when you actually need to use it, something just doesn't click.
And this is the absolute key. All that stuff you learned, it has nowhere to go. See, without some kind of system to organize it, it all just sinks. It gets lost in the back of your mind, and you can't get to it when you need it.
So, what's actually going on in there? Well, your brain has all these little pieces of information, but it's not connecting the dots between them. That whole process of thinking, analyzing, putting things together, coming up with new ideas, it just never gets activated. And so when you need the answer, you just get nothing, silence. So you might be wondering, what happens to all this disconnected knowledge? Well, think of it like an old library that nobody ever goes to. It just starts to decay.
I bet this timeline feels pretty familiar to a lot of you. After the first year, you're left with that nagging feeling. Like, yeah, I learned this, but I don't think I ever really got it. Fast forward to year 2, and it's just gone. I've forgotten everything. And by year 3, that's when the frustration kicks in, and it turns into, you know what, I don't even want to try anymore. It's this sad, predictable slide from being confused to just giving up.
But here's the thing. This whole process, this forgetting, it's not some personal failure. Nope, it's a failure in the system. We've been so focused on the wrong part of the equation. It's like we spent all our time loading a ship with cargo, but we totally forgot to hire a captain or even install a steering wheel. And that, right there, is the heart of the problem. We're great, absolutely great at giving people data, but we almost never give them the tool to actually navigate that data. We don't give them the thinking system itself.
So let's break this down a bit. The old school way of learning treats your mind like it's just an archive, a place to store data and facts. But the approach that actually works, it focuses on thinking. It's about having a navigator that helps you make sense of all that data. It's about building connections between the facts. And when you make that shift, your mind transforms from this passive, dusty archive into a really active, useful toolkit.
So what exactly is this navigator we're talking about? It's a thinking system. It's basically the set of mental tools you use to make sense of information. The frameworks you use to break down problems, the patterns you learn to spot to connect ideas. It's like the software that runs on the hardware of all the knowledge you have.
Okay, so when we actually shift our focus away from just collecting knowledge and start building a real thinking system, it's like a total reboot for your brain. And all of a sudden, all that information that was just sitting there becomes dynamic. It becomes useful.
And this mental reboot leads to 3 really clear outcomes. First, you start to see what's actually essential. You can cut right through all the noise. Second, your brain just naturally starts making new connections between different ideas. And finally, you can act with confidence. You move from being confused to taking decisive action. So, when you look at it this way, the choice is pretty clear, isn't it? Without a system, all that knowledge you worked so hard for just turns into a dusty, cluttered archive in your head. But with a system, that very same knowledge transforms into a powerful instrument. It's something you can actually use to build things, to create, to innovate.
Which really brings us to the ultimate goal here. It's all about shifting our focus from just knowing stuff to actively thinking.
This, right here, is the most important takeaway. The real point of education, of learning anything really, isn't just to pile up a bunch of facts. The real goal is to build the ability to think critically, creatively, and effectively with all the knowledge you've gathered. So I want to leave you with this one question to think about. In your own life, in how you learn, how you work, even how you teach other people, are you building one of those dusty archives in your mind?
Or are you building a powerful toolkit? Because that difference, it's everything.